Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the air. So, hello again, another episode of the Emerging Frontiers Hangout sessions. We like to call them our open online video discussions. And this is going to be another fun one, interesting one. Today we're going to be speaking about real estate opportunities in emerging and frontier markets. And the two gentlemen there on the screen are from totally different places in the world. First of all, we have Yared Haile Meksel, sorry. He is based in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia.
Sorry, apologies.
Did I make a mistake on your name?
No.
You can slap me about that afterwards because I've known you way too long to make mistakes in your name. But anyway, I guess you're in one of my personal favorite markets, which is Ethiopia. We're going to talk about that. And we also have Floyd Monroe, who is in Indonesia, across from Singapore, right?
Yes, exactly.
Well, welcome to the call, Floyd. Now, we're expecting some more people to join, so don't be surprised if other people walk in. That's the nature of these kind of gatherings. They're open, so people can step in and out. So we may be getting somebody from Mongolia on, and I'm sure that my colleague Kevin, who's based in the U.S., will also be joining us. So we've got another one of those multi-time zone calls. But let's get into this, guys. Yared, can we start with you maybe? You're based in Addis Ababa. This is an obvious, there's a big need for developments there. Tell us a little bit about what you're working on and what you're seeing there. Oh, there's two of you now, Yared.
Okay.
How do you do that?
Oh, wow. His twin brother.
I don't know. I mean, I think I have to.
No, this is it. No, keep them on. It's fine. Is that your alter ego?
Yeah. So yeah. Well, I just missed a bit of part of your. Did you ask me a question, or do you want me?
Did. No, actually, we thought we'd start with Addis Ababa and Ethiopia in general.
Okay.
Let's talk real estate. What's going on there? I know there's a lot going on. There's a lot of need for development. So walk us through that very briefly, and then we'll go over to Floyd, and he'll tell us all about what's going on in his part of the world.
Yeah, I mean, I returned, as you know, about 2.5 years ago back to Ethiopia. So I'm a consultant. I'm doing, primarily on investment. But the real estate sector is huge. It's very growing now because there wasn't any real estate in a couple of years back. 10 years, 15 years ago, it's self-built houses. But now the real estate is growing really, really fast, and this is making a significant difference on the economy. Is that a phone somewhere or just sorry? Yeah. So it's a big opportunity in Ethiopia. I will come back in a minute. Sorry, just I have to switch some phone.
That's stupid me, Floyd. That's me talking into the void, and I'm actually speaking to you, and you couldn't hear me. Sorry about that. So, tell us a little bit about what's going on in Indonesia. You're developing something there, and I believe you're very close to Singapore.
I'd like to give first to give a little background on Batam. It's kind of an amazing place that flies under the radar. It's in 1970, there was 5,000 fishermen living out here with no roads. Now it's 1.5 million people and growing at about 10% a year. It's a free trade zone in Indonesia, just like a 45-minute ferry ride across the straits from Singapore. So basically what's happened, a lot of the industry that can't actually exist in the spaces of Singapore has expanded to areas outside of it, and Batam is one of them. And there's a crying need for Western-style expat housing, and my partners saw the market for that, and we have a neighborhood of houses here that we've been buying and redeveloping for that purpose.
And is that a new development? Was there nothing there before?
No, actually, it's an old development, and the story behind it is that during the currency crisis in 1998, a lot of people had borrowed Singapore dollars to buy these houses, and the rupiah dropped 5 to 1 versus the Singapore dollar. So the people just walked away from their mortgages. probably not unlike what's going on with Hungary and Switzerland right now.
Yeah.
So these houses, many of them had been abandoned or just very lightly used. So we've been able to buy them very cheap and renovate them for a nice margin.
Okay. How long have you been working on that now?
Yeah, it's still an ongoing process, of course. But
okay. And how does that then? Because one of the value props is your proximity to Singapore, right? So the logistics are in place. People can cross over very easily and all that. Are you trying to attract professionals who want basically a little bit more value for money, or what's the proposition?
Yeah, well, our base up to now is the island itself is a logistics center for the oil industry. So there's 80 odd shipyards that ring this island. So there's quite a few expats who work for any one of those various companies, and there's been very little in the way of, let's say, Western style long-term apartments for them to stay in. They all wind up staying in hotels or other places where they could just find some accommodation. So we actually outfit these houses so all the apartments are Western style, Western service, which is important. All the people on expense accounts, expect to have problems taken care of immediately. And
right.
We also have an on-site restaurant and pool, like I showed before.
Yeah.
A little hard to see, but I'm sitting in the restaurant's just above me. I don't want to sit in there. It's a little noisy right now. And just to service the business, because we recognize the niche and we're building it out as we go.
Okay.
So
yeah, you may want to show that again, Floyd, because I'm afraid my big face got in the way of when you were showing that. So I'll just mute myself so we can see.
Okay. Yeah, and it's interesting because we're really the only Westerners on the ground here doing something like that. So it's been a long learning curve, but we have several people here who are now fluent in Indonesian, have Indonesian wives. So we understand the business environment here. So we have a leg up on anybody else who's trying to get into it in this particular location. So, and it's always a challenge too.
Oh, amazing. And this is the first type of project like this you're involved in, or have you done other things like this before?
Yeah, me personally, no, this is the first one like this. But one of the foundation investors behind this had a background in real estate, another one a background in hospitality. So they had some prior experience with this, but I got in mainly as an investor.
Fantastic. All right, thanks for that. So we just had Kevin join us on the call. Hello, Kevin. How's it going?
Hey, very well, Baldwin. Hey, Floyd. Nice to finally see a face.
Hi, Kevin. Yep.
Yeah.
We've traded emails a few times.
Yeah, we have. No, glad to see you're still making things happen out there and Smiling Hill.
Yeah, we're actually here right now for our annual general meeting. So that's always fun. So we sit down and strategize how to proceed for the next year, and we have an area that actually we have one of the highest points in Batam that looks directly back towards Singapore. So that's the main thing we're discussing right now is how to best utilize that. So we're very excited about some of the possibilities.
Fantastic.
Yeah. All right, Yared. So let's go back to you. I mean, let's talk about Ethiopia. I mean, every time I go to Addis Ababa, this is project and construction galore. Everywhere you look, there's work to be done. So tell us a little bit about what you're involved in and what you're looking at there. And
yes.
Tell us a little bit about the opportunity because.
I mean, the Addis Ababa is it's just fast growing. It's amazing pace. As I said, I just returned 2.5 years ago, and then all the opportunities are now. The real estate started about probably 20 years ago. Small companies trying to build and sell houses, but now it's getting bigger and bigger, and then there is a big interest from foreign companies. Like now there is one Chinese company building apartments and selling. Also the market is opening up. The demand for a house is huge, for local apartments. A good example is about 2 years ago, the government decided to build apartments and then sell to the people. And then the criteria was you need to be able to afford to save. You must be living in Addis Ababa, and then must not have property already, so a first-time buyer. And then on that, everybody was surprised by the number of people registered. 1 million people registered waiting for this housing scheme. So it's become now beyond the capability of the government. I don't know whether they could be able to build it in 10 years. So there is the interest is now in encouraging private sector to get involved, and then there's quite a lot of interest. Of course, Addis Ababa is underdeveloped capital. A good part of it is being now demolished and rebuilt. So there's also a big opportunity for a multi-purpose shopping malls, residential quarters, apartments, and office spaces. So Baldwin have been coming and going around. If you go around Addis Ababa, it's totally a construction site. I mean, the good thing is the economy had been growing, really 10%, I don't know, disputable, but 8+% in the last 10 years. So it's also attracting a number of good foreign direct investment. So it's getting really well. So probably you need to look at it in your agenda. Probably have a look what opportunities in Ethiopia.
Yeah, I mean, I
think
crazy.
Yeah, I'll catch up.
Yeah, it's really crazy when you see it. I mean, when my experience with that is once I think it was the second time I went to Addis. There were sort of like a few months in between, and our common friend Zem had this office on the airport road, and I remember like the first time I went to his office, he had a beautiful view, and the second time I went, which is literally something like 8 or 9 months later, there was like a building there. It's obviously a huge country in the terms of it's sort of like it's a little bit, can I say Germany, because it has about 90 million people, but it doesn't have like one big city. It has a lot of different cities, I think, which all sort of average somewhere between 2 and 4 million, 5 million people, right?
Yeah.
Is that a universal thing going on around the country, or is it just in Addis?
No, it's everywhere. I mean, it's a big drive. I mean, the economy is now growing, primarily driven by the construction sector. It's mainly, I mean, look, the cement industry. There was like a 2 million ton cement manufacturing facility in Ethiopia a couple of years back. Now there is huge, about to probably 12 million now. It's growing to 20 million. Dangote is going to inaugurate a new factory very soon, and then Alamudi built a big one. So it's the demand, but still the cement price is going on up. So that's the interesting thing. So the demand is outweighed, the supply. So because the housing was literally stopped in the military government in the last 20 years sort of thing. There wasn't anything house being built, because it was a government domain sort of thing. But now it's opened, and then they couldn't be able to cope up with demand. So it's a big opportunity. And then the profit margin, you may think Ethiopia is a poor country sort of thing, but the cheapest now apartment the Chinese selling is 150,000 USD sort of range. So the labor is cheap, the material is relatively cheap, and then the material they use, and then it's not that expensive like Europe, but the profit margin is significantly high. So it's attracting quite a lot of investment. Maybe it's a good time to get into, particularly on mixed-use facilities.
And the fact that Dangote is there always means that there's something to be done. But another question is, isn't this an obvious sort of prefab housing market, or do you think it's actually less of that and more of a construction?
No, I think it's still the prefab hasn't. You remember we talked with a company, your colleague in Spain, and then I didn't take off because it needed either to be promoted, properly. Market, because the people still value house as brick and mortar as an asset. So, but it takes time to build a lot. Of course, the labor cost is very cheap, construction. But the time is the primary saving of prefab. Also, there is no companies locally manufacturing prefab facilities. There was a couple of attempts, local companies, share companies, but they haven't yet got the momentum to get into the market. So still it's cement, still construction, so that sort of thing. But yeah, those are the areas.
Yeah, say Kevin, I mean, Emerging Frontiers is also focusing on real estate projects. Tell us a little bit about those as well.
Yeah, we're about to launch our first. We're in the process of putting finishing touches on a project in Mongolia called UB Park, and this is being managed with some local partners of ours who have been operating in the country for several years. And yeah, it's a very niche, very focused opportunity focused on the acquisition of parking spaces. I don't know what the opportunity is for parking spaces or parking management in places like Addis. I mean, I'm certain that in Singapore it's quite significant. However, Ulaanbaatar is an interesting city in that it's squarely in the middle of the world's least densely populated country, but the city's been developed in such a way that traffic congestion in a very narrowly focused area is ridiculous. I mean, it's some of the worst traffic I've ever seen. I used to live in Moscow, so that's saying something. So the city has almost no infrastructure when it comes to traffic management or parking, because it's the quintessential frontier boomtown in a country that's been growing at anywhere between 8 and 15% per year. And the real estate the availability of raw land or land that can be developed in the central business district is nil. So what you've got is a relatively fixed supply of parking spaces in the CBD, where everybody needs to go to work, to do business, for entertainment, leisure, to go visit a government office. Everybody needs to come into the center of the city, but there's a fixed number of parking spaces and a steadily increasing number of automobiles in that city. So there's an opportunity there to get involved with ownership of independently owned parking spaces in Ulaanbaatar, pursuant to perhaps a more long-range strategy to get involved with establishment, construction, and operation of infrastructure. So this is the sort of opportunity we like to pursue here at Emerging Frontiers, because it's something where we can start off with a relatively small footprint and then scale it up based on market conditions and the growth of our own platform and bandwidth for our investors. So that's our first, I guess, foray into property with the Emerging Frontiers platform. Certainly more to come, and I know we've spoken with both of you gentlemen in the past about what you're doing, and both projects in particular are quite interesting. So I expect that we'll be seeing a lot more many more property-focused opportunities on our platform in the months to come.
Yeah, great. So, guys, I mean, to sort of start rounding this off, tell us a little bit more about where people connect with you. I mean, maybe start with you, Yared. You're in Ethiopia. I mean, and I think your main position, your role is to any foreign investors or people looking for projects in Ethiopia. You're the man to go to. You are the man, right?
Yeah.
Where can they find you?
Yeah. Well, I'm based in Addis Ababa. I'm available online, and so the real estate is. I just want to give you a couple of points, because in the image Ethiopia doesn't really, show whether there is, need for real estate. The house probably. I mean, last time land sold more expensive than New York in Ethiopia. So, per square meter. So the demand is really huge. So if you see it, Addis Ababa is now the third, what you call it, the third diplomatic capital in the world. New York, Luxembourg, then Addis Ababa. So there is 54 African countries, as a result of African Union, and then almost every European or Latin American or Asian country has to have a presence here to meet all the African, diplomatic mission in Ethiopia. And then the land has been, the government has been giving really cheap land for quite some time for real estate development. The model was, because it was a shortage of capital, things was sold on, on the blueprint, on the floor plan. So the people pay to get the build, but it takes quite a long time. And then when real estate kind of, got into financial difficulty after raising 1.4 billion birr, selling, houses. So that's a kind of created a scare in the market. So now people want to see a built, at least 50% built properties to, put their money in. So that is creating a financial constraints. So every real estate in Ethiopia now who's got a big land for rebuild, looking for a partnership, with somebody who's coming with capital, knowledge partner. So that will create the confidence in the market. So it's a big place, and then the most probably expensive place here in Ethiopia. And then the profit margin is, you can't see it anywhere in the world, 100% probably on real estate. So it's a big, particularly if somebody get into a mixed-use malls, shopping malls sort of thing, parking, this sort of facilities, that's a huge market. I mean, I'm in the middle of the business district, and then the rent is going every 6 months up and up. So there is no demand. So there's a supply is limited. So it's a good opportunity. Probably if you guys are looking in the long run, we can bring potential partners who are already building, but they want to scale it up, to get into most effective scaling up building. So keep in mind, if you need any information, probably I will find more data and statistics.
Yeah, we'll definitely post some links to who you guys are on the site. So if
definitely
want to connect, that's great. Floyd, tell us a little bit about yourself. I found your webpage, so I'm just gonna put that up while you speak, if it's okay.
Sure. I can be contacted directly at Floyd at smilinghillbatam.com. Batam, B-A-T-A-M. A lot of people get it confused with Baton or other things like that. So obviously the website there also soon to be updated. And yeah, we're building out slowly, but we're always looking for new investors. We're like a lot of people, we're asset rich, but the more money we can put in, the faster we can develop our stockpile of existing houses. The main thing we like for people to do is just come over here, let us tour them around the island, because it's really a fascinating story to come and see how a place can grow so fast, and how many different businesses there are, and how I'll call this a second world. It's certainly not Singapore, but it's not undeveloped at all. I'll just give you an example. 6 years ago, you never saw a new car on the island. Now, almost every vehicle is new. A lot of places in Asia used to be motorbike mob scenes. Now, there's still a lot of motorbikes here, but the amount of them is way down. So, even I was in the shopping center the other night. There were several Mercedes in the parking lot, and people just would not do that. Even that recently. So it just gives you an idea of how fast the place is growing, and what kind of money there's here, and what the opportunities are. So and it also still is for Westerners a bit adventurous.
Yeah, it's that step out of Singapore into a little bit of adventure.
And it's simple to get to. It's like I mentioned before, it's a 45-minute ferry ride from Singapore, right. And visa on arrival is very simple to get. So it's a very easy access place. So when people hear Indonesia, they're such a large country. It sounds like it might be difficult to find or way out in the middle of nowhere, when in fact it doesn't get a lot of publicity because it flies under Singapore's radar. Right. So just to get people out here and take a look at it is part of our mission.
Fantastic. Okay, and just Kevin, anything else from you that we should add here?
Yeah, I just have a question for Floyd, just about the demographic of the typical customer or a typical buyer at Smiling Hill right now. Are you seeing a lot of Westerners, or are there Chinese buyers coming in, or a mix? What's your experience been so far in terms of interest for?
In here, we're the buyers right now. We're the buyers of the actual houses.
Right.
But you're talking overall.
But for the onward sale, where's the interest coming from?
So if you go island wide, it's mainly Indonesian. The Indonesians are developing the island out for the most part. I do believe there's some amount of Singaporean money coming in. The businesses are Western.
Right.
Like some of the larger electronic businesses, places like Caterpillar has a reasonable presence over here. Then, various Japanese and Korean companies. The shipbuilding is Korean, Indonesian. McDermott out of Houston they have the first shipyard on the island. They have a very, very large shipyard here. So it's I can't say that the actual outside investment overall on the island is coming from any one particular place. And the Chinese are definitely not. They're here and spending a lot, but they're not a overwhelming presence at all. It's the Indonesians are. A lot of money comes in from Jakarta.
Right.
Singaporeans actually are somewhat gun shy about Indonesia.
Interestingly enough. Yeah, I guess it's not that unsurprising given the history of Singapore. Although
if you have to go back 10, 15, 20 years ago, a lot of people are. This was more of a Wild West situation over here. So
right.
A lot of people lost their money in certain investments, and so we feel that's also one of our advantages that since it's Western owned and operated, that other Westerners can come in and feel comfortable about discussing those things with us. But on our other side is that we're several of us are fluent, not me, but several others are fluent in Indonesian, and we have people who are well versed on Indonesian corporate law and business law that we can understand that side of the table too. So explain it to them and what's different about here and what's similar to a Western investment.
So what is the provincial government doing to try to encourage FDI and an influx of foreign residents into?
Yeah, well, the main thing is that Singapore is a special economic zone and free trade zone.
Right.
And the rest of Indonesia is somewhat jealous of Batam's special status. So an awful lot of business has come in here over the last 20 years due to that free trade zone status. So manufacturers, they can set up here, trade, the goods back and forth from here to Singapore, which is a huge advantage.
Right.
Rather than the rest of the country everything has to go back through Jakarta.
And how long is the commute? If somebody's living in Batam and wants to work in Singapore, what's the route of travel? Yeah,
some people do. And let's say the 45-minute ferry time I gave you is door-to-door ferry terminals. So
right.
if you live over here, you have an APEC card, so you get to go through the speed lanes in the immigrations. So, an hour. You could actually live here and commute to work in about an hour or so.
Yeah, I've spoken with people who live in Malaysia, commute into Singapore. A couple of Chinese associates of ours, and yeah, they say they have to time their commute just right. Like if they actually drop their kids off at school in the morning, it could take over 2 hours to get to work. So it's
a lot of cities are like that. You miss a 5-minute window and you're in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's something nice about taking the ferry to work in the morning.
Yeah, here if you just make sure you don't come in behind a cruise ship, and you're probably okay at the immigrations.
Right.
And actually, we hope to see more of that because the price differential between here and Singapore for buildings, apartments, and houses is so much that it's worthwhile. For people they're discovering that they could live over here. The ferry service is getting better. Just recently, now the last 2 times I came over was on a much faster, much better appointed ferry. So I think we're going to see more and more of that.
Great. Now, look, a little Floyd and Batam, a piece of paradise. So it's definitely something we're going to pick up.
Not exactly. So it's but it's paradise to people who are interested in fast-growing places that are industrialized, and some of paradise isn't too far away. So our housing development, even though it looks very nice when you're in it, it actually sits adjacent to industrial parks, but it's separated from everything by, we actually have banana trees and palm trees and all that right around it. And McDermott Yard, you can see from the top of our hill when you're looking back over towards Singapore. So, when you're here, you know that you're in the middle of a very vibrant business, industrial-oriented area, and the vacation part of it's not too far away. I mean, there's some pretty nice golf courses out here that are only a 20-minute drive. And, nice beach areas that are about a half hour, 45 minutes away. So for people who like the business and then like, sort of the pleasure aspects of it, you can't have them both here. But we have to be honest, this is not quite that kind of a paradise. It's not idyllic, that's for sure. It's bustling, it's busy.
Maybe what the Macau could be to Hong Kong or the Shenzhen. I don't know. Maybe someday in the future, right?
A little bit. Except for the gambling part, because they actually made a deal with Singapore a number of years ago. There was gambling on Batam, and then suddenly there was no more gambling on Batam when Singapore decided that they wanted to have gambling. So I would guess that's no accident. They actually made a deal, said, okay, if you guys stop having the gambling over there, then pick things up, and so we can have gambling over here in Singapore.
I see. Okay, interesting. Okay, gentlemen, thanks for that. Let's round this up. I just wanted to plug our site a little bit, if you don't mind. Basically, why I'm doing this, that's Emerging Frontiers. We're having these conversations all the time. It's a community of people who are interested in emerging and frontier markets and are doing business there, and I'd also like to get to know it better. So by all means, you can sign up for our list. I promise you, we send out some really interesting things. And then again, if you don't like it, you can just unsubscribe, but please do join our community. We'd love to have you. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for being on the call, and thank you for watching. Yared, have a very good rest of the afternoon. Floyd, have a nice
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And Kevin has a whole day ahead of him.
Thanks for joining, gents. Really appreciate your participation.
Oh, yeah. Nope. Anytime.
Until next time.
Thank you very much.
I think next week we have something. It's possible that we're going to be talking about Iran, so stay tuned for that one. That's going to be interesting. All right. Take care.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.